In this video, we're going to take you through a full speed and agility training session with Raiders cornerback Rock Ya-Sin. We're going to break down each drill and exactly what you need to focus on. So if you're an athlete looking to improve your speed and agility for football, or if you're a coach looking to help your athletes, this is the video for you. Let's go ahead and dive into it. All right, so a speed and agility training session needs to start off with a good solid warm-up. A skips and B skips are a great way to start. So Rock is starting here with A skips, and the key here is to execute these movements with good arm swing and good leg mechanics. The mechanics that you bring into your warm-up are going to dictate how you're going to run at top speed and how you're going to do your drills. So with this A skip, you want to be smooth with your arm action and then quick with your leg action and driving down into the turf with the ball of your foot. With the B skip, we want to be reaching that leg out and really working on driving that leg down under the body and contacting the foot underneath the hips. Focus on being smooth and rhythmic here and getting your body warmed up and coordinated well to be able to do higher intensity and faster movements later on. Now, A skips and B skips are sagittal plane warm-up exercises. For athletes who are going to need to change direction, we want to also make sure we're including lateral warm-ups. For example, this crossover step skipping drill can be really great for driving laterally and for warming your body up for the rotational demands of change of direction work. We really want to be aggressive with that knee action. As we get moving faster and faster through the warm-up, we can get into something like these toe drag acceleration runs. This can be a great way to really work on your mechanics in your push-off. After the warm-up, Rock's moving on to accelerations, repeated accelerations, and Coach Zachy has a good specific way to do these.
So we're having him ramp up, getting warmed up for his for sprinting to do field work. Started at 50%, we're ramping up about 10% each time, but we also have out there a marker for him to decelerate by. So he's sprinting to the 15, but then stopping by the 25-yard line, so we work on both the acceleration and deceleration.
Mechanics are really important here, and what you'll notice is that even at the high level of an NFL athlete, he's still working on refining mechanics. Being able to get efficient with how you can translate your center of mass forward and accelerate is what separates really elite players from just very good players. These accelerations don't have to be a specific number of sets and reps. Rock's working for about 20-yard runs and then a 10-yard deceleration. Again, getting faster and faster each rep. When you're doing these, you don't want to just do these over and over again until you're gassed. You want to make sure that each one is faster than the previous one and that your mechanics are improving from rep to rep. When we say mechanics, we're looking for things like good arm action where the arm swing actually goes back behind the hip into full shoulder extension. We also want to see aggressive knee drive out of the crouched position. Rock does a really good job of getting an overall really solid body angle here with about a 45-degree angle in that first step. The only thing we are seeing is that he's doing a pretty big cycling first step where his legs coming pretty high off the ground. We would actually like to see a lower heel recovery where the foot doesn't cycle up and over but instead stays close to the ground. The center of mass of the athlete is generally a little bit above the hips, and we want to make sure that's in alignment all the way down to the toe off. Eye position should be somewhere a few yards in front of where you're going to, not looking way up and not looking way down. From the backside, you can actually see that acceleration mechanics do involve a bit of rotation. So you shouldn't be just directly sagittal plane here, meaning that you're completely stacked on railroad tracks. Instead, your body is going to naturally move side to side a little bit as you step. As we're accelerating up to top speed, we want to see the chest and the shoulders slowly rise up. Rock's probably rising a little bit fast here, but he's only accelerating for about 20 yards. If we can keep a reasonably forward body angle throughout that first 10-15 yards, then we can actually see good acceleration mechanics all the way through until upright. If your sport involves deceleration as well, you can cut those decelerations down to fewer steps to actually work on being able to quickly decelerate at the end of these accelerations as well. Probably not very important if you're training for sprinting, but if you're someone like a wide receiver or a corner, then that can be really important for your sport. All right, after about 10 to 15 minutes of work on acceleration, Rock was getting into 90-degree change of direction. Now, when we're changing direction sharply at a 90-degree angle, we need to drop our center of mass and nearly stop as we transition to a different direction. This is very different than open field change of direction, which he was working on later in the training session. For these sharper cuts, you have to quickly slam on the brakes, drop your hips, quickly turn your head, and align forces in the direction that you're going. A lot of good things about these change of direction mechanics that you can see here is that Rock does a pretty good job of actually dropping his hips and then redirecting force. You can see if we pause and look at the shin angle, this is really impressive that he's able to get a good body angle right out of that sharp turn. Again, a lot of work on technique here and making sure that the technical elements of change of direction are all there. After working at 90 degrees and mastering that, he was actually able to work into even sharper change of direction angles here. And this is something that you're going to need to do as a wide receiver or a cornerback. So with these really sharp change directions, you need to be really efficient with turning quickly, aligning forces well, and using good arm action and knee drive to attack that second cone. All right, from here he was working on some more open field change of directions. This is when you're coming down the field and you're changing direction by about 30 degrees or less. In this case, you want to actually keep your center of mass high and not drop and slow down. You want to maintain velocity through this type of change of direction. Now, it's really important how we execute these open field change directions to make sure that we're safe on the knee. We want to execute these with at least 15 degrees of knee bend and actively pushing into the ground a little bit outside of the center of mass, but not too far outside the center of mass. It's really important that you have good rotation at your hip to be able to execute these movements. So after working on change of direction at a bunch of different angles, then Rock's working on agility, and this is different than change of direction. Agility is when we require a cognitive perceptual component, meaning some other stimulus to tell you what direction to go to. In this case, Coach Zacky's actually shadowing here and giving Rock a direction to go, and he's following. Football plays don't last very long and they're very fast. So we want the drills to be pretty close to this. So we want to be doing these for less than 30 seconds at a time with plenty of rest in between. For all the speed work and all of these agility drills, you're resting for at least 4 to 5 times as long as the drill. So if you're doing a 30-second drill, you're resting for at least 2 to 2.5 minutes in between sets. Again, this is to make sure that each repetition is very high quality and very high speed. We're gonna get much more out of the repetitions doing it this way, where we're really maximal and our nervous system is all the way ramped up and working hard for each set rather than just going to fatigue. From there, Rock's just working on a zigzag drill. This is to get forward and back and actually quickly change direction from one to the other. Again, really important for someone like a cornerback to be able to do this. And then at the end of this zigzag drill, he's sprinting out of that last position. About 10 minutes of total reactive agility, probably about 5 minutes working on this drill, about 4 sets with 2 to 3 minutes of rest in between. Again, focusing on technique and getting faster and executing each repetition really well. After that, it's just a cool down. It actually looks very similar to the warm up, but in this case, he's doing a knee to elbow drill where it's kind of like a cross crawl motion, bringing the knee to the opposite elbow as he's moving smoothly down the field. And then lastly, ending with some backwards jogging to give a low submaximal stimulus to the tendons. This is really important because when we're doing max speed work all the time, we need to also incorporate some lower intensity stuff to build up that tissue tolerance of the tendon to be able to handle the higher speed stuff that you're doing. So these are really good to include again in the cool down. As you can tell, he's leaving the session still pretty fresh. He's training 2 to 3 hours, some resistance training in the weight room, some speed work on the turf, some technique and football specific training with the team. So if you're combining everything into one training session, you may decide to do more conditioning work at the end of the training session or more football specific drills at the end of this training session as well. But hopefully this gives you a good lens into the speed and agility drills that you can work on to really master your technique and get faster with your change of direction. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe so you don't miss any future videos, and we'll catch you in the next one. Thanks.